All right, it's 11:15. We're going to try and get started on time and keep this conference moving swiftly along. I'm Mike. I'm your room host for the day. And I just wanted to let everybody know, and come on in. We got room down here in the front. And we're looking forward to your questions. We actually have a special feature this year at JNUC. It's in the app. So if you haven't yet, fire up the JNUC app and then navigate over on the left side to the Q&A section. And that's where you will pose questions that you've got for our presenters today. And the cool thing is virtual attendees can do the same thing. So we'll be able to engage with both our virtual folks watching it online in the interwebs, as well as the folks here in the room. So before we get started, as people are still coming in to sit down, how many of you, this is your first JNUC ever, your first time ever coming to the JNUC conference? Well, welcome, yay, that is awesome. How many of you have been to 2 or more JNUCs? Okay, all right. Anyone over 5 JNUCs? Ooh, there we go. So we have really hard questions. We go right there. Okay, fabulous. Come on in. We still have room. Take a seat. Join us. How many are here that are working in higher ed institutions? Institutions of higher, okay, fantastic. Let's see, elementary, secondary, K-12. Where are my K-12 people at? Okay, great. Any English teachers? Any English? No, just me? Okay, all right, great. Fantastic, so glad to have you. And without further ado, I'm gonna hand off to your presenter, VP of Product Strategy, Suraj Mohandas. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is.
Morning, everyone. Let's see if this clicks. Let's go. Well, good morning, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed the keynote. What'd you guys think? Good stuff? I'm so fired up with all the updates that we have coming. Thank you for being with us. For some of you that have been with us since the beginning, it's been a couple of decades that we've been at it, and I am so thrilled about what's ahead of us as well. When it comes to education, this is sort of, I'm gonna try, there you go. This session that we put on every year is sort of think of it as a trailer. It's a teaser reel because there's so many sessions during the week. I really hope you take advantage of it, but this is supposed to be that quick reference guide on everything that's happening, and you need that next level of detail. Feel free to sign up and attend a lot of those sessions. You're going to see a lot of familiar faces. You're going to make some new friends. I hope you have a fantastic JNUC 2023. And I don't know how many have already partaken in the local barbecue scene. If you have, you're never out of options in Austin. That's what I find out every year. So enjoy the food, enjoy the city as well. Let's get going here. Let's see. There you go. How are we doing here? Now, you heard about trusted access from the main stage. You heard about manage and secure. Those are very key, important strategy elements for us. But what is really getting us and this education team out of bed every day is the fact that we empower student success, working with amazing individuals like you in the room, but also working with the ecosystem that surrounds a student. That is teachers, parents, school leaders, and how we become relevant to them and how we serve them is what really gets us really excited. Now, when we talk about deployments, I swear I'll figure this out by the time I'm done here. When we really talk about deployment, I think we think about successful deployment. What does a successful deployment really feel like? Is it the fact that when the student takes the device out of the box, it's ready to go, it's ready for teaching and learning? Is it that the faculty member that's logging in has all the resources they need? It is part of the story. It is about getting the device to do what it's intended to do, but I think that's only part of the story. What is really exciting and what, again, energizes us is understanding the purpose that device actually delivers. Purpose is our North Star. It's what grounds us. And with any deployment, it's fair to ask, what does that device intended to do? Is it for the student to advance their teaching and learning? Is it for the teacher to feel confident in front of those students? Is it for the faculty member to feel energized about teaching and learning and research in general? And when these devices go home, are we giving the tools for the parents to be part of that learning journey that the student is on? Purpose is what we anchor on, and I encourage every one of you to ask yourself, what is my purposeful deployment look like, and how am I leveraging technology to deliver on that purpose? We are so excited to work with so many international schools and schools all over the world. And you saw a similar slide last year that I presented. Those numbers have gone up. We now work with over 40,000 educational institutions globally, empowering north of 42 million estimated students through one-to-one and shared Apple deployments. That's massive. And to me, the fact that we are adding numbers, adding deployments, and being a part of success stories all around the world really gets us energized. We also are going to talk about 3 key pillars of what makes it important for us to be relevant in a classroom and how we are part of transforming teaching and learning. And that transformation begins with 3 key elements. And to talk about those 3 key elements, I want to call Matt Pullen, fresh off the JNUC stage and maybe a little breathless still from running over, to talk you through that.
Thank you very much.
You want to take that?
No, I don't need another mic. It's fine. I have
I
a
thought
mic.
you need it, just in case.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Suraj. I think that the thing that we talk about when we're looking at the education landscape is how do we have a strategic approach to solve those problems that we know exist within education from all levels of that education landscape. So be that the IT admin, be that the budget holder, be that the student, the parent, like how many people are engaged in this? And I think last year at JNUC, we showcased that kind of town hall approach to how we look at solving the problems that everybody faces. And we've talked a lot over the last year in different sessions about the 2 sides of the same coin, the IT admins and the teachers. Like everyone's trying to solve the same problem, they just maybe come at it from different angles. So one of the things that one of the things that we talk about is this idea of scalable and seamless technology to be able to make sure that the focus is constantly on making sure there is success in whatever it is you're doing. Be that the IT admin having to look after thousands of devices, or be that the teacher who's on their first day of teaching and has an iPad and 30 children in front of them that probably know more about technology than they do. How do we make sure those people can use the technology effectively to support the roles that they're trying to do? Now, we really are thinking about this from the point of small schools that are just starting on their technology journey, all the way up to those large deployments that have been utilizing technology for a long period of time, but that technology potentially because of the pandemic has started to shift in terms of what it's actually doing. Has the focus moved away from simply having access to something to using it in a more productive and meaningful way that changes the outcomes for people in the future? And when we talk about this, we think about this idea of the transformation of what does the job market look like. We've just heard in the keynote about the changes that are taking place around us. The pandemic has forced change in many cases, but equally things like AI have proven to provide new opportunities for people to do things. In education, as both Morgan and Alvin said on stage, we have an opportunity to prepare these individuals for this workforce that currently doesn't necessarily exist, but how do we make sure that they're ready to adapt to this kind of change in what's happening? including that potential for $8.3 trillion worth of new ways of doing things. Now, I will always say that education is the place where this all starts. We said it on the keynote stage. If you get it right here, those children will grow up to be the people that will change things, that will think differently. But it all comes down to giving them the right technology, managed in a way that allows them to do things in a different way. And that kind of gives us to this kind of idea. The technology is now there to do so much more than it used to do. Gone are the days of simply accessing things, but how does the technology allow us to reduce workload? For our K-12 friends, how do we enable a teacher to not see technology as an extra burden in their workload, but actually how is it going to reduce many of those mundane tasks that they don't really have time for? We see recruitment and retention in the education industry as something we have to fight against. But how about completing that solution so people want to work in it, so it becomes fun and enjoyable? And believe me, those institutions absolutely exist where people love going to work every day. And some cases, it's the technology that gives them that reason to do these things. Remembering where I'm pointing this at. So these are the kind of areas that we focus on, but rather than seeing them as three separate pillars, think of them as that strong foundation to everything you do. There's no start or end point in any of this. It's how do we utilize the tools and the efficient tools that we offer from Jamf to make sure everything is tied in together, to make sure that the efficiencies make those students become the leaders of the future. We talk about this, you may have seen this graphic before in terms of how we look at building this ecosystem. And our manage and secure messaging that kind of aligns with that trusted access approach is that you're going to buy those Apple devices. Why? Because we know they're the devices that transform teaching and learning. And then you're going to manage them through Jamf, obviously, you wouldn't be here otherwise, but also through Apple School Manager to make sure they're set up and efficient to use. But then we go further. Those classroom tools help those teachers do so much more. And we've got sessions this week that talk about the idea of IT not stopping at the classroom door. Every IT admin in this room has a responsibility, but also should take credit for those learners which absolutely transform what they can do as a result of the technology. So tools like Jamf Teacher, Jamf Student, Jamf Parent, the assessment app, and Apple Classroom coming together to make sure those teachers are confident to use the technology. Because if you don't use the technology, it's just a well-managed box in the corner of a room. It's the teachers we need to empower to make sure they get used. And then we build that with the bigger ecosystem through the Apple Education Solution Program and our own marketplace to integrate those other solutions to do so much more. Be that integrate literacy, numeracy, how you're going to do workflow of content, etc. And we have so many case studies where schools have implemented all of this really effectively. And then the final level we talk around is our security. How are teachers going to be safe and secure to change what they're doing in the classroom and make sure their students can't go off and do things they shouldn't do? And as an ex-teacher myself, I would say this is probably my biggest challenge. I want to trust them, but I just don't. So I need something to kind of help me with that. And then we also showcase the additional training solutions that go around that. Apple Teacher, Apple Professional Learning, Jamf Educator, all things that are provided to really help everybody understand that you can get so much more from your investment than just access. So with that, I'd like to have a look at some of those stories of impact. And we've got 3 different case studies that we'd like to showcase with you on stage now. And with that, Mike, I'll hand it over to you.
Fabulous. Thank you, Matt. There we go. Really nice. So our first story we get to talk about is Taiwan, Ministry of Education. The Ministry of Education in Taiwan deployed 400,000 devices over the course of 2 months. That's 10,000 iPad devices a day. And with Jamf's help, they were able to deploy those to schools across the country. And the iPads are personalized for each and every student at any scale, allowing them to work at their own pace. The content filtering features of Jamf Protect and Jamf Safe Internet help monitor students' behavior and protect them from accessing websites that have inappropriate content such as adult or violent or gambling content. The quote that was said by the General Secretary of the Ministry of Education was, "Jamf helped us realize our countrywide vision to provide the best learning experience for our students." So it's pretty extraordinary. The other piece, as a professional developer myself, I was really entranced by is they offered over 100 training sessions on Jamf Teacher and Parent over the course of 3 months deploying these devices, which was an extraordinary effort. And it really invested the teachers and empowered those teachers and the parents to control the devices when they went home. To hear some more stories, I'll give you Dr. Emily McRoberts-Froese, the other education leadership executive here at Jamf.
Thanks, Mike. Yes, so I'm going to go a little more local and a little higher ed. Talk to you a little bit about Texas A&M. And about 5 years ago, Texas A&M was really looking for a new management solution. They were having a little trouble with their current solution, so they sought out some input from some of their peers around the higher ed space, and they landed with Jamf Pro as their chosen solution. Not really, knowing what was going to go on with Jamf Pro, they started looking into the Jamf 100 and 200 to really gain some confidence in their deployments. So they took those courses and they were able to do their deployments in a matter of hours. A time save of things that used to take them days and even weeks to do. So they were really excited about that time-saving solution. And then the College of Architecture was really looking for a way to leverage their Apple TVs. They'd made an investment in Apple TVs. They wanted to really leverage those with instruction and maybe some safety messaging. So they partnered with Carousel, and now they have a Carousel and Jamf solution in that digital signage. They also use Ditto, which is a neutral device screen sharing solution. That's a mouthful, guys. For students and teachers to share, screen share across their universities. So super excited. The Texas A&M team is here with us this week. I highly encourage you to reach out and talk to some of those guys around if you see them. And then we're gonna go across the pond to Bremen. This is one of our largest deployments of Jamf School worldwide. It started with just over 1,000 devices initially, and throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, it grew to 90,000 devices, all managed by Jamf School. And every one of those devices uses Jamf Teacher, which helps keep students engaged in that instructional space. So as much as I love telling you stories, we're gonna get back to our speakers. So I'm gonna invite Valeria to come up and join us.
Thank you, Emily. And I'll see if I can manage this because I've been told that it works better with tall people, so I'll do my best. But I'm Valeria Chira, and I'm in the Community Education Initiatives Department. It's a small department, but we try to do a lot of work. We use Jamf School in all of our hubs around the world. As you can see, these are the students that we have engaged in our hubs. We have 16 right now. And a lot of you have been to a few JNUC, so you have heard where our hubs are. You can see it now in the map. But right now, I want to tell you about the two stories. One is our latest one. After having students in the hub for a few years in Zimbabwe is where right now we have the most hubs. I mean, we have 5 in the US, all of them in Minnesota. But right now, we are having our, see, I overdid it. We just want to see this one. So in Zimbabwe, after a few years of having our Matter Innovation Hubs and having students going through the hubs, working with technology-enabled active learning, using shared iPads, and having teachers use Jamf School, learning with Apple, and a bunch of other education technologies like Osmos, Spheros, working on creative learning, critical thinking, and developing that model. Now we are opening the Matter Career Readiness Institute. in this wonderful facility opening at the end of October, beginning of November. Date is, I think, November 2nd, official opening date. We have 3 interns coming out of it, already working at Jamf with our engineering team. These students are Apple Swift certificate, and they are ready to work. They are, like I said, graduates of our Matter Innovation programs, and they are ready to partner with other organizations for internships. We have, at the moment, other 14 studying there, and we'll be ready to join other companies in January of 2024. And our next one, and this is our latest hub, just opened last year in Samoa, in the city of Apia, after a project with UNESCO and the government of Samoa, after helping Apple with getting devices in 20 schools in the island. We have now one hub where students are using Apple devices and Jamf School. Again, this is what we are doing, is always following our TL model with the same things that we have been doing in other hubs around the world. So this is just a little bit of a glimpse of what is happening and how we are using our own tools. I am the one who gets to still work with kids and work with students and teachers. I'm the one who gets to see all the stories that, you know, people tell you about. I'm the one who goes to, with my team, goes to camps, and students come to me with already being 11 years old and giving me business cards because they are ready to work for Jamf, and they already know a lot of coding, and they are really, it's that workforce of the future is there. It's not a story. I get to see it, and I get to prepare those lessons. So what we are telling you here, it's happening. So for that, I welcome Matt again. He's not a liar.
Thanks. And I think for me, that thing is, like, we talk about strategy and we have keynote slides and they talk about these stories. And then when you actually hear the story and see that, you know, we're not just making this stuff up. Like, Alvin was talking to me as well about some of the stories of things that he wants to do, and I'm sure you'll hear about them in future JNUCs, around students having employable skills in this industry, because we know that's the route where the industry is changing to. And so hearing all those great things that are happening around the world, like, really, really warms my heart specifically to know that we're making a difference. We're not just doing what we always did, because that doesn't change anything. So kind of looking to some of those key releases. We talked about this on stage. We've highlighted a lot of these. So looking at the products that we have and some of those additional areas, let's just kind of do a very, very quick recap of what we have done and what is coming already in part of our roadmap. So if we think about Jamf School specifically, we've had those UI enhancements. You will have seen them happening over time, and they're now kind of just rolling out to make sure, like we said on stage, that consistency is there just to make people's jobs as easy as possible, sticking with that seamless approach. We then are starting to roll out our declarative device management tools. You will have seen some of them integrated already, and it's part of our plans going forward to make sure that these things, as they come available to us, are rolled out to you to make things as easy as possible. State ramp, for those of you that need, I'm almost going back into my keynote speech now. State ramp, for those of you that need that instance, is being rolled out. I think at the moment we've got that ready status. There's obviously a process to go through, but we want to make sure, like we said, this is not just something focused on the US. We want to make sure that we have that high compliance approach, because that's what we believe in. It's not necessarily about ticking a box. It's about providing things to make sure that users are as safe as possible when they're using them. We've got that updated Jamf Teacher UI. That is coming out very, very soon. You saw a glimpse of it on stage. And although, like I said, it is a small change, it's a huge impact because teachers using these tools want to be able to see what they have done. So they don't want to have to sort of reset the system in order to then kind of add an additional tool or take one away. So it seems easy. I'm sure that I'm probably not doing the team any credit in how much work goes on behind it. It seems a simple change to me from a UI point of view, but I know the impact this is going to have in that classroom setting, as teachers just want to be able to have those simple tools to be able to make sure they can manage what they're doing. And then moving on to Jamf Pro, again, you heard lots of these things. App installers has been rolled out and self-service for that. Similarly, that DDM approach, again, as those features become available to us, we want to roll them out to make your device, your work as simple as possible. And then that rapid security response, which again, you will have seen rolled out, making sure that we can make those devices as secure as possible, because we know those phishing malware attacks are becoming ever more prevalent. And then as we move on to Jamf Safe Internet, again on stage, the big thing was talking about this on-device content filtering. This is a huge thing for us, recently rolled out and constantly evolving as we start to add in those additional tools. We are Apple first and Apple best. We want to make sure that we integrate the Apple features to make sure that the devices you're using are as great as they possibly can be, to make sure students can just focus on what they need to focus on in the classroom. We're also expanding those categories, so those of you that are utilizing Jamf Safe Internet will probably benefit from that ease of use of just turning those categories on or off as you need to, depending on the age of the learners that you're using. And then finally, crypto jacking. Now this one is a fairly new feature to me as I start to learn about this the new cyber threats that we're having. But we want to just make sure that this tool is not just focusing on content filtering. We want people to understand that this is a content filtering and mobile threat prevention tool. So if your institution doesn't necessarily need to worry about content filtering, thinking about that high ed space, that mobile threat prevention is something that, unfortunately, we do need to take into consideration to make sure we're protected against. Any minute. There we go. Okay. And then finally, thinking about our marketplace. Like, we're really proud of having our marketplace and those integrations that really start to support how you get the most out of that technology. How can you integrate it to make that workflow as simple as possible? And these are just a few of the added marketplace offerings that we've had over the last year. Some focusing on the social and emotional learning, some focusing on literacy, but all of them there to just round out that education experience depending on the needs that you have. So if you don't go into the marketplace, please do jump in and take a look at all the things that we're starting to add in and our great partners that are supporting us to make sure your deployments are as good as they possibly can be. And then finally, you did actually hear a lot of this on stage, so I'll reiterate it. App installers for Jamf School, which literally, there we go. We've got some fans in the room for this one, which literally dropped this morning. I was backstage. I had a message from our product team to say, Matt, you could say it is live now. So it is there. We will continue to have Jamf teacher updates. We are really passionate about this application because, like we said, it really helps that classroom experience and turn that manage box into a tool which is going to do great for students. StateRAMP will continue to evolve. It's one of those processes where I think there's about 6 different steps you go through. We'll continue to work through that, like we said, because we're focused on that high compliance model that we want to make sure all our users are as safe as possible. You heard about Jamf Pro 11. Veronica did a great job of explaining it to everybody on stage. We know that this is going to be a great tool to make sure that interface and usability enhancements are there for everybody. And then finally, recently we launched our Jamf School 240 certification. There we go. Thank you. We did have a blog launch, I think it was yesterday, about this. We will start to put it around on our socials. Please do check it out. A great way to understand the depth that you can go into in Jamf School. We talk about it as being simple and easy to use, but by no means is it simple behind the scenes. It can do an awful lot, and we'd love you to take part in those certifications to find out all those great things that they can do. And like we said, we have, on top of that, some fantastic additional support that we offer. We will run both in EMEA and in AMA, and launching now in other countries, our Jamf Breakfast Club. So if you've never joined into a Jamf Breakfast Club, these are our webinars where we'll talk to customers, we'll talk to partners about the great things they're doing with the tools. So please do join in and listen into those. We recently did a high ed one. I think it was last Thursday. Really, really successful, and hearing those customers talk about what they're doing with the devices. We also have Jamf Educator. How many of you in here have the Jamf Educator badge? Oh, there needs to be more hands up. I'm going to get, don't make me go teacher mode on you. It's a really, really useful tool. If you have teachers that are utilizing Jamf Teacher, this is a great way to help them get started. So from the IT admin's point of view, if you want less people knocking on your door asking you how to do things, get them to do this. It's a great entry point for people to understand the full value. As is the Education Hub. We have Jamf Nation. We have an Education Hub within that, which is specifically for those EdTech integrators to start to think about how they're doing things, ask questions, but also share stories of impact. Because we know those stories of impact are the things that can really promote and give confidence to other people to do the same thing. We talked about the certification. I'm sure lots of you in here are already certified in lots of areas, continue to do those things. We think they're fantastic. And then the final thing is our security lounge, which is kind of like our Jamf Breakfast Club with a security focus. Like we said, unfortunately, it's something we need to focus on a lot more, and we need to make sure that we are providing you with the tools and the ideas of how to best go around protecting yourselves and your users and networks from all of these things. And with that, thank you for listening, is what the next slide should say. And we'll open it up to questions. Oh, the question of... looks like you wanted to answer it as well. You were stepping up on stage. Okay, so the question was, are we going to backfill the Jamf Teacher solution in Jamf School into Jamf Pro, correct? I probably didn't say that. It's a clearer way as you just said it.
It's available.
Yeah.
There are parts of it that I wish that were available only to the school customers that would be cool to have in Pro too.
Yeah. So
Well,
if you were edging forward,
yeah,
you want to answer.
That question was coming. We actually have several. So Morgan Cave, I don't know if she's there. So we actually talked about, there's a term that we use, it's like relentless incrementalism. Like, I believe in that. And I think what you can do with Jamf Teacher on Pro addresses most workflow needs in the classroom already. And please talk to Morgan. She's knows it way better and sees it in action every day. Yeah, so, and I think where we're headed with that, so that's the short term, which is take advantage of it the way it is right now, because it will save time for teachers that don't have as much time in classroom. But where we're going with is we're going to evaluate our platform approach, which in short means we're trying to lift it up so that similar functionality becomes applicable across our MDM portfolio. But there's more work to do there, so I think that's kind of where we are.
It's a good question, and we've got a few questions in the app. Feel free to jump into the app to pose your questions, even if your name isn't Bruce. Bruce has got 3 questions in here, so we'll go with one of those. And I think Dave Saltmarsh, he's salty to the rest of us. He might be able to answer this question, or perhaps Valeria. How is the work in Afghanistan going with the harsher environment for female learners? Dave Saltmarsh, everyone.
That wouldn't have been fair to ask Valeria to do it, although I would prefer her to answer this. I'll give an update on what's going on in Afghanistan. For those that don't know, 2 years ago, through one of our wonderful, wonderful partners, they funded the Innovation Hub in Afghanistan. It's a full facility. They funded all of the implementation. I simply was the wonderful person who had the opportunity to go there and meet the school and embrace the culture and the people that were involved. We went back, we implemented it, I believe in about March or April, and then by August, most of you all know what happened over there. We had girls from first grade through all the way through high school involved, plus boys. They matter too. Not as much to me, but they do matter. Because they're going to do great no matter what. But we had girls from kindergarten to first grade all the way through high school. When the Taliban took over, they canceled girls being able to go. They changed it to girls through 6th grade. That is still happening. So, but they don't know what we're doing, because if they knew exactly what we were doing, and this went internally recently because I shared a post last week of a bunch of girls doing some coding, doing drawing, being creative, doing robotic sphero balls, and I'm like, please don't let anybody know this, but we have girls in Afghanistan learning that. Unfortunately, it's only through 6th grade. However, once you inspire somebody, it's pretty hard to take that spark out of them. So as much as I am saddened and it pains me to think about it, it is still going on, and there are sparks being ignited in these young women there. Unfortunately, the frustration is all the girls that we inspired that spark a while ago are kind of in limbo still. So very, sombering at the same time, some little bit of hope. Thanks.
Thank you, Salty. So, in all seriousness, please don't post that on the social media outlets.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
So we do have a question, I think, for Matt. This might be good. In terms of high ed research faculty that don't want their machines managed by Jamf or anything else, do you have any tips? How would we work with them to encourage them? Do we encourage them based on peer review concepts?
They talk to their friends.
This is a good question. Someone who just used
What
to
did you
work
do? What did you do, Mike?
in higher education, right? So I worked in higher education and tried to convince my colleagues to do lots of things differently. Someone said to me, it's like trying to turn an oil tanker. Like, patience is probably the biggest tip. I think there are solutions, like talking about device security is an important thing, but unfortunately, in my instance, it always came back to the institution policies on things. And until the institution policies started to change, it didn't force anybody to do anything different. So yeah, patience and try to, I think the way I would win in any conversation in my institution was fight them at their own game. And if you could find research which proved that this was the way you should go, people listen to research. So, play them at their own game to do those things. But, yeah,
the other thing, right, and I've heard you talk about it, is the user experience, the big carrot of user experience that you can deliver is something that I've heard you talk about it, your experience getting a device that didn't quite do the job for what it was supposed to, and then having to bring your, am I supposed to say this out loud?
Do you want me to explain?
Please.
Okay, so I am that person. High ed IT admins, I apologize now. I was the person that you gave me a Microsoft device to, and I'm an Apple user. Okay, so if we just talk, I'm not saying anything about Microsoft devices, I'm just saying I'm an Apple user. So if you give me a device that doesn't work for me, I'm going to use my device and I'm going to bypass your systems, which causes security issues, right? So I would always say to people, you need, like, the whole employee device program is an important thing. I think sometimes, though, in higher education, people don't know what they don't know. So sometimes, like, that educating people about what the devices can do for them that makes their lives easier is definitely a route to go down. But I would, yeah, sorry, I probably should have said that. I just don't want to embarrass myself in front of IT admins to admit I was the person who tried to break your systems most of the time. Yeah, apologies.
And we hear that story. It's
Yes.
not just you confessing in front of all these
Obviously.
fine individuals, but we hear that story of, like, when you're not able to access resources, when you're not getting to be productive in your workforce or workplace, that's when it doesn't work for them, and that's when you say, what does managing my device get for me, right? Like, so I think it's a good conversation starter.
All right, get in the comments about Matt. He'll be available later to answer to your criticisms. Yeah.
Sorry.
I may regret doing this, but are there questions in the room? Folks that maybe didn't get into the app to add their questions, and we can run out. Donna Hewitt, Dr. M has offered to help out. If there's questions in the room, we could run over a microphone to you and then repeat the question for the virtual audience. Anybody? We got a couple of minutes left. Okay, yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about the Jamf educator certification or plan? I'm interested in taking that back to
I would
a couple
love
of
to.
teachers on the team.
So it's a virtual learning platform at educator.jamf.com. It's free. All they need to have is a Jamf ID. And here's one of my favorite parts. It's a simulated environment. So if you're on the fence about do I want to deploy Jamf Teacher or not, you don't have to run out that training. They can actually go on a web browser of their choice, log in, go through the modules. There's 4 modules, and earn that certification in a simulated environment where they're using Jamf Teacher and they're dragging and dropping and dragging and dropping to build lessons, to create restrictions on the apps, and then they can earn that certification and a badge, which we all love badges, right? Oh yeah. Yeah. And it's very similar to Apple Teacher, but on the Jamf flavor. So yeah. And it also has a track for ed tech, teachers and tech coaches. There you go. There you go. Send her there, and it would be a separate track for ed tech trainers. There's other experts here. I just jumped in because I had the microphone.
No, that's perfect. I would say, if you can speak to the recent kind of collaborative, because tech coaches are great. If you're trying to scale a program, you could go direct to teachers, but if you can train the trainers, it goes a long way. So, I know.
Yeah, we just had a great recent experience where we worked with a team of IT coaches for an entire day, and we did some rotation stations and that sort of thing. But the way that Jamf Educator is set up is it's a on-demand experience you can do in a 3-hour seating, or you can do it in 30-minute increments. However, like they said, you just need a Jamf ID, but it is chopped up so you can do it in measurable pieces. But it also goes in and talks about how it pairs well with Apple Classroom, which, of course, if you're making the investment into Apple devices, you want to leverage as much as you can there, too. So it is a great companion to Apple Teacher and the Jamf software that you're using managing your devices. So, yeah.
I will add just one caveat to that. So currently it is on the old UI. So you will see
it does look a little different, yeah.
It does look different. Functionality is the same as we've improved the UI. There was no, because it's simulated, as Mike said, it's ever changing at the moment because we're updating the UI. So we'll do the updates to Jamf Teacher. So currently you'll see an older version. It is still the same functionality. So.
Yep.
And Matt's going to get right on that when he gets back to the office.
There we go.
How many of you use Apple Classroom here?
Apple Classroom.
It's Jamf Teacher, Apple Classroom. We have tons of literature on how they kind of work together in synchrony. So it's amazing. So you don't have to choose. It's a better together story that you can leverage. And if teachers are using Apple Classroom, it extends that experience by leveraging Jamf Teacher as well. So I encourage you guys to take a look at that. Yeah.
Got a question behind M.
So I noticed on one of the slides on the keynote where it looks like restrictions are now going to be able to restrict, or maybe this was there and I didn't realize it, specific functionality like autocorrect or screenshot. I wonder if you can speak a little bit more to that and what that looks like and what that range of behaviors might look like.
So yeah, it's a great question. So yes, it has always been there. Maybe it might be more obvious to people now, and that's part of the UI updates. So the restrictions of things like spell check, I would go into schools and try to help them understand the power of the technology. And the feedback you would get sometimes from literacy teachers was, we like using iPads, but the problem with iPads is it's almost like cheating because children aren't spelling anymore because the device is doing it for them. So in a literacy environment, being able to turn off spell check and autocorrect is fantastic. I would always then say to them, your 4-year-olds will benefit from being able to spell pterodactyl because they know what it is, but they have no idea. I don't have a clue.
I don't know how to spell
pterodactyl. But the benefits of, there we go, the benefits of having it when you need it. And this is why we talk about it from a Jamf teacher point of view, because you could turn off autocorrect at an IT admin level, and then you're almost like putting all of your students in the same bucket to say, none of you get this support. And one of the reasons that you will have Apple devices is because of that personalization of learning opportunity. So being able to, for that teacher to say for the next hour, the focus is on literacy, so we'll remove it. After that, go for it because we know it's a tool that's going to level the playing field and provide equity for students. So yeah, all of those restrictions that sit in there, so taking screenshots, camera, all of the things that you can do on device, and then obviously there's the apps that you can say yes or no to. We talk about it as focused learning. There's lots of apps that are going to be beneficial, but they might not all be beneficial at the same time. So therefore, just limit the things that people can do. And then the final one that we talk about is websites. It's not necessarily content filtering, although it technically does, like say you can only go on this website. But if you're creating a lesson plan as an educator, and you know you want students quickly to go to 4 different websites to do some like comparative study, just give them those 4 websites, and there's no need to create QR codes. It's a subtle saving of time, but educators benefit from it because they're not, planning to do that. They're not making QR codes behind the scenes, so it can be a huge thing in the classroom. So. Awesome.
I will say, I think we're running out of time. So I will say there are a lot of sessions focused on the teaching learning side of things, but there's also, I think last year, I don't know if the gentleman is in this room, but we were trying to understand the pro and school dilemma is the way they posed the question. There's a session Craig and Eric are doing that.
Between two ferns.
Between two ferns, yes. Fantastic.
Curtis and Eric.
Maybe Zach will show up. We don't know. Galifianakis, not Homestead.
Well, we
so
are at
they're
time.
fans. That's really good. And please make sure you take advantage of all the sessions. It really takes it to the next level of detail for what you saw up here. Sorry, go for it.
So we are at time, and we've loved the interaction. If we didn't get to your question, we're going to jump into the comments and try to respond. So pay note to that, and we'll try to get an answer back to you. Or as Suraj mentioned, there's dozens of other education sessions here at JNUC. It's been an increase since last year, so watch for that to continue to grow. We love to have more education sessions, and you going to those sessions help us do that. So thank you again, and we ask you to have a fantastic JNUC, and we'll see you at the party tomorrow night.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.